hydrolysis of salt. Before introducing the term that is hydrolysis of salt, first we come, what is the salt? Now everybody that knows that the salt is the formation when the acid that reacts with the base, it gives the salt and water. This is what the very simple न्यूट्रलाइजेशन प्रोसेस. सभी को पता है कि न्यूट्रलाइजेशन में एसिड और बेस जब रिएक्ट होते हैं तब हम लोगों को सॉल्ट को फॉर्मेशन मिलता है. Now when we use the word that is the hydrolysis of salt, that means that when these are salt that gets hydrolyzed, then that will produces the acids as well as the bases. So the reaction is very simple. When these are salt that react with the water, it gives that is the formation of the acids as well as the bases. Where we consider the Ba is a one salt, where these are salt that will react with the water, it gives the formation of the acid Ha and the base say that is the BOH. Correct? Now this is a complete process that when the salt that gets hydrolyzed, when it produces the acidity or the basicity or the acid or the base, that complete concept is known as the hydrolysis of salt. And hydrolysis of salt में हम लोगों को जो product मिलता है, that will be the acid, that will be the base, or that will be the neutral. Now we are coming also that various types of the salt. अगर हम लोग यहाँ पे types of salts की अगर बात अगर करें, so what are types of the salts that we are getting? Now generally अगर हम लोग टाइप ऑफ सॉल्ट्स की अगर बात अगर करें तो चार अलग अलग टाइप के हम लोगों को सॉल्ट यहाँ पे मिलते हैं. That the first salt that we are getting by the reaction, it is the salt of the strong acid and the strong base, salt of the strong acid and the weak base, salt of the weak acid and the strong base, and the salt of the weak acid and the weak base. Now let us see that the one by one. जब हम लोग कोई टाइप्स की अगर बात अगर करें तो हम लोगों को समझना है कि हाउ दैट दीज सॉल्ट दैट विल बी फॉर्म्ड बाय द कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ द एसिड्स एज वेल एज द बेसिस, वेयर वी हैव बीन टेकन दैट द एसिड्स दैट मे बी अ स्ट्रॉन्ग एसिड और दैट विल मे बी अ वीक एसिड्स एंड द बेसिस दैट आल्सो द स्ट्रॉन्ग बेसिस एज वेल एज द वीक बेसिस. जैसे कि पहले कंसेप्ट की अगर हम लोग बात करें, see that this is the strong acid and the weak. ये जो salt होगा कौन सा, एग्जांपल्स के तौर पे हम लोगों ने यहाँ पे सोडियम क्लोराइड और KCl दिया है. Now how the sodium chloride that will be formed? That these are sodium chloride that will be formed by the combination of the strong acid as well as the strong base. जैसे कि reaction की अगर बात अगर करें, see that is the strong acid is a HCl and the strong base is a NaOH. That gives the formation of say that salt NaCl plus water. देखिए ये रिएक्शन है. अगर ये रिएक्शन है तो यहां पे जो सॉल्ट फॉर्मेशन होगा, that these are salt formation that will be formed by the combination of the strong acid and say that is the strong base. So it is the salt of the strong acid and the strong base. Getting this? समझ में आ रही है? And therefore that this is the salt that is formed by strong acid and the stronger base. That the very similar way we are getting the various types of the salts over here. See here the salts that we are getting by the combination of the by the reaction of the strong acid and the weak base. चलो हम लोग यहाँ पे strong acid की अगर बात अगर करें तो see we take here that is the strong acid over here and whatever say that base is the base की अगर बात अगर करें तो that see ammonium hydroxide is the base. अब देखो यहाँ पे क्या मिलता है आपको, we are getting the formation of the ammonium chloride along with the formation of the H2O. So that these are ammonium chloride, देखो ammonium chloride, it is a salt of strong acid and the weak base. So this is the strong acid and the weak base. Very similar manner, see that whatever the formation that we are getting here, that is the sodium carbonate. ये sodium carbonate, this is also one salt, that these are salt we get by the combination of the weak acid as well as the stronger base. Correct? Weak acid and the stronger base. यहाँ पे जो salt आप लोगों को मिलता है, that we are getting by the combination of the by the reaction of the weak acids as well as the weak bases. Clear? अगर weak acid weak bases की अगर बात अगर करें तो let's see that is the CH3COOH प्लस वीक बेस की अगर बात करें तो अमोनियम हाइड्रोक्साइड. सो द फॉर्मेशन, अगर ये फॉर्मेशन की अगर बात अगर होती है तो दैट इज द CH3COO NH4 plus H2O, that this is what the formation. So that this is the salt that we are getting by the combination of the weak acids as well as the weak bases. Very similar manner, अगर मैं यहाँ पे पोटेशियम साइनाइड की भी बात करूँ या तो सोडियम कार्बोनेट की भी अगर बात अगर करूँ तो that we are getting, that is the very similar way that the salts that we get. So these are the various types of the salts. These are the various types of the salt that we are getting. So that the first salt that we get, अगर हम लोग यहाँ पे कंसेप्ट वाइज अगर जाए तो हम लोगों को यहाँ पे 4 प्रकार के सॉल्ट मिलते हैं. जो पहला सॉल्ट ऑफ द स्ट्रॉन्ग एसिड एंड स्ट्रॉन्ग बेस, दूसरा स्ट्रॉन्ग एसिड एंड द वीक बेस, तीसरा वीक एसिड एंड द स्ट्रॉन्ग बेस, एंड चौथा अगर हम लोग बात अगर करें तो दैट इज द वीक एसिड एंड द वीक बेस. यहाँ पे अगर फॉर्म की बात करें, चलो यहाँ पे ये एक एग्जांपल छूटा है, तो वीक एसिड की अगर बात अगर होती है तो दैट व्हाटएवर द फॉर्मेशन इज देयर, कोई भी फॉर्मेशन की अगर बात करें तो इस तरीके से हम लोगों को अलग अलग एग्जांपल्स यहां पे हम लोगों को मिलते हैं. क्लियर, ये समझ में आ रहा है? सो दैट व्हाट इज द कंसेप्ट, दैट इज द हाइड्रोलिसिस ऑफ द सॉल्ट एंड द अनदर दैट इज द टाइप्स ऑफ द सॉल्ट. ओके, सो वी कम ऑन द हाइड्रोलिसिस ऑफ द सॉल्ट ऑफ द स्ट्रॉन्ग एसिड्स एज वेल एज द स्ट्रॉन्ग बेस. नाउ सी, as per the definition of the hydrolysis that we have been taken, what is the hydrolysis? What is the hydrolysis of the salt? When the salt that gets hydrolyzed, it produces the acids or the base. लेकिन इसके लिए अगर ये salt अगर होता है तो either cation or the anion, or both that reacts with the water to produces the acidity or the alkalinity, that is known as the hydrolysis of the salt. That is known as the hydrolysis of the salt. अगर हम लोग पहला एग्जांपल लेंगे, that say by considering the salt of the strong acids as well as the strong base, where as per the example say that the sodium chloride is a salt of the strong acid as well as the strong base. Therefore, after the hydrolysis of the sodium chloride, what reactions of the how the product that we get and the what exact जो solution होता है, ये salt का जो solution होता है, whether these are solution of these salt, whether that becomes the acidic or basic or neutral, that we are going to decide. Let us see. Sodium chloride, when it gets hydrolyzed, that is reacted with the water, that gives the formation of the hydrogen chloride, and so that is the sodium hydroxide. So this is the salt of the strong acid and the strong base. So this is the strong acid and this is the strong base. Correct? Chalo, as the strong acids as well as the strong bases are there, they get a completely dissociate, 100% dissociation. Therefore, we write here that is the salt hone ke karan, that give that is the sodium positive plus Cl negative plus H2O as it is. Then say that is the HCl as it is the strong acid. It gets a completely dissociated as the hydrogen ion plus chloride ion, and the sodium hydroxide also completely dissociated as the sodium ion and the hydroxide ion. Now by cancelling the similar terms, say that is the sodium positive that gets cancelled. Then say that is the chloride negative that gets cancelled. So what we are getting, H2O that we H2O on the left hand side and the right hand side, H positive as well as the OH. यानी यहां पे अगर हाइड्रोलिसिस की अगर बात अगर करें, neither cation nor anion, that undergoes the hydrolysis to produces the acid or the alkali. अरे यहां पे अगर आप देखें तो कोई ना तो कैटायन ना तो एनायन यहां पे हाइड्रोलिसिस के अंदर में पार्टिसिपेट होता है, एंड देयरफॉर वी सेज the hydrolysis of the salt of the strong acid and the strong base does not carry out. It never shows the hydrolysis, and that's why the salt of the strong acid and the strong base never shows the hydrolysis. So there will be no hydrolysis. Clear? समझ में आ रही है? यानी अगर हम लोग यहाँ पे ये सॉल्ट के हाइड्रोलिसिस की अगर बात अगर करें तो यहाँ पे ना तो कैटायन ना तो एनायन, इसमें से कोई भी आयन हाइड्रोलाइज नहीं हो रहा, एंड दैट्स व्हाई वी आर सेइंग कि स्ट्रॉन्ग एसिड और स्ट्रॉन्ग बेस के अंदर में हाइड्रोलिसिस की प्रोसेस कतई पॉसिबल नहीं है, एंड दैट्स व्हाई वी आर सेइंग देयर विल बी नो हाइड्रोलिसिस ऑफ दीज सॉल्ट. ओके, सो द हाइड्रोलिसिस ऑफ द सॉल्ट ऑफ द स्ट्रॉन्ग एसिड्स एंड द स्ट्रॉन्ग बेस. देखिए, इसके पहले हम लोगों ने स्ट्रॉन्ग एसिड और स्ट्रॉन्ग बेस की बात की थी. Now we are talking about the hydrolysis of the salt of the strong acid and the weak base. So see, we consider here that is the salt, that is the copper sulfate. Where these copper sulfate, that this is the salt that we are getting by the combination of the strong acids as well as the weak base. Correct? अब यहां पे अगर देखें, सो द स्ट्रॉन्ग एसिड एज वेल एज द वीक बेस की अगर बात अगर करें तो देखिए ये सॉल्ट कैसे बनता है ये भी हम लोगों को पता है, उसका हाइड्रोलिसिस कैसे होगा. सो सी दैट दिस इज द वीक बेस एंड दिस इज द स्ट्रॉन्ग एसिड, यानी that these are copper sulfate salt that is to be formed by the combination of the H2SO4 that reacts with the copper hydroxide. So when the sulfuric acid that will be reacted with the copper hydroxide that gives the formation of the copper sulfate. So this is the salt that we are getting by the combination of the strong acid and the weak base. So this is the salt of the strong acid and the weak base. अगर इसका हाइड्रोलिसिस अगर किया जाता है, then say that after the hydrolysis of these copper salt, what we are getting, we must get here that is the weak acid as well as the strong base. अगर copper sulfate अगर dissociate अगर होता है, that gets the copper ion plus sulfate ion. So we are getting here that is the copper ion, formation of the copper ion and the formation of the sulfate ions. चलो हम लोग इसको डिसोसिएट करते हैं. अगर ये सॉल्ट अगर होगा तो दैट से दैट इज द डिग्री ऑफ, अगर वहां पे डिसोसिएशन होगा दैट गेट्स 100% गेट्स डिसोसिएटेड एंड दैट्स व्हाई वी आर गेटिंग द फॉर्मेशन ऑफ द कॉपर आयन एंड द फॉर्मेशन ऑफ द सल्फेट आयन. वाटर एज इट इज होगा हाइड्रोलिसिस में जा रहा वो, दैट दिस इज द सॉल्ट, दैट दिस इज द सॉल्ट दैट अंडरगोज द हाइड्रोलिसिस, दिस इज द वीक बेस करके इसका डिसोसिएशन नहीं होगा, पार्शियल डिसोसिएशन में जाएगा. तो यहाँ पे 100% डिसोसिएशन किसका होगा, दैट्स दैट इज द सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड दैट गेट्स डिसोसिएटेड इनटू द हाइड्रोजन आयन एज वेल एज द सल्फेट आयन. क्लियर? देन बाय कैंसिलिंग द सिमिलर टर्म्स ओवर हियर क्या होता है, देखिए यहाँ पे कहीं सिमिलर टर्म्स की बात होती है क्या, दैट्स दैट इज द सल्फेट आयन and this sulfate ion that gets cancelled over here, and that's why say Cu2 positive plus H2O, so that is the twice H2O that gives the formation of the CuOH by 2 plus that is the twice hydrogen ion. Now the reaction that we are getting, this is what the exact reaction of the hydrolysis of the salt of strong acid and the weak base. अगर यह हाइड्रोलिसिस की रिएक्शन होती है, इसका मतलब से that these are copper cation that undergoes the hydrolysis. These are copper cation that undergoes the hydrolysis which produces here hydrogen ion. यानी अगर हम लोग डेफिनेशन यहां पे अगर डेफिनेशन की बात करें तो that these are cation that shows the hydrolysis process which produces the excess of the hydrogen ion, and that's why see that whatever the solution of these copper sulfate, अगर मैं ये solution की बात अगर करूं, solution of the copper sulfate, as we are getting the excess of the hydrogen ion or the hydronium ion, the solution that becomes the acidic solution, जहां पे हाइड्रोजन आयन का concentration बढ़ते जाएगा as we are getting the greater concentration or the higher concentration of the hydrogen ion. Therefore we says that this is a solution of the copper sulfate that becomes the acidic. So the hydrolysis of the salt of the strong acid and the weak base, solution of these copper sulfate that becomes the acidic. Statement की अगर बात अगर करें, cations, copper cation are responsible for the formation of the hydrogen ion. In such type of the hydrolysis of the salt, the cations are responsible to undergo the hydrolysis which produces the hydrogen ion, and that's why the solution of the copper sulfate that becomes the acidic. Okay. The next hydrolysis, that is the hydrolysis of the weak acid and the strong base. where weak acid is the CH3COH and the strong base is the sodium hydroxide. So when these acid reacts with these strong base, that will produces the sodium acetate CH3COONA. After the dissociation of the CH3COONA, that gets converted into the ion CH3COO negative charge plus sodium positive charge, and therefore that these are salt of the weak acid and the strong base that will be hydrolyzed, that will produces here, that is the weak acid and the strong base like this. So the reaction is the CH3CO negative plus Na positive plus H2O, that gives the formation of the CH3COH plus NaOH. अब यहाँ पे डिसोसिएशन अगर हम लोग यहाँ पे देखें, देखो क्या होता है, CH3CO प्लस Na पॉजिटिव प्लस H2 एज इट इज, ये वीक एसिड होने के कारण डिसोसिएशन यहाँ पे नहीं होगा, स्ट्रॉन्ग बेस का कंप्लीट डिसोसिएशन होगा, एंड दैट्स व्हाई वी राइट हियर दैट इज द सोडियम पॉजिटिव एंड द OH नेगेटिव. So by cancelling the similar term over here, what we are getting, CH3COO negative plus H2O, that gives here the formation of the CH3COOH along with the formation of the OH negative. अब देखिए यहाँ पे, now the statement is very simple. For the hydrolysis of the salt of the weak acid and the strong base, we can say the anion that will be responsible for the hydrolysis, which produces the excess of the OH negative or the hydroxyl negative charges, isn't it? Where it produces the OH negative charges, and that's why that the coming whatever the solution, अगर हम लोग उसके solutions की अगर बात करें, so that these are solution of these sodium acetate that becomes, that is the basic in nature. क्यों basic? Because we are getting the excess concentration of the hydroxide ion. बराबर है, हाइड्रोक्साइड आयन आपको यहाँ पे मिलते हैं, and that's why say that is the whatever the solution is there, that these are solution of the salt of the weak acid and the strong base, or rather we says that the solution of the sodium acetate that become the basic solution. Why? Because in these hydrolysis, negative part, or say that is the anion that will undergo the hydrolysis, anion that will be responsible for the hydrolysis which produces the hydroxide ion. अगर यहाँ पे hydroxide ions का formation होता है, that means that this is a solution that must be that is the basic solution, as the concentration of the OH negative ion that will be greater over here. जहाँ पे concentration इसका ज़्यादा होता है करके ये जो corresponding जो solution होगा, that this is a solution that becomes the basic solution. Clear? So this is all about the hydrolysis of the salt of the weak acid and the strong base. Okay. The next hydrolysis is the hydrolysis of the salt of the weak acid and the weak base. So under this heading of the hydrolysis of the salt of weak acid and the weak base. See here the example, this is the Ba is the salt that undergoes the dissociation which produces the B positive plus A negative. And when these are salt that will be hydrolyzed, then we get here that is the formation of the weak acid BOH plus HA, that is the weak base. अब अगर यहाँ पे अगर हम लोग बात करें, see, we are getting here that is the three different conditions over here. If this is the reaction, then as the product both they are the weak acids as well as the weak bases, therefore the partial dissociation is there. 100% that the dissociation is not possible over here, but as per the statement of the hydrolysis, both cations as well as the anions that undergoes the hydrolysis. अगर यहाँ पे अगर देखें, so that these are cations as well as the anions, both of these undergoes the hydrolysis which produces the weak acids as well as the weak bases. Then on the basis of the nature of these acids as well as the bases, that we can say that whatever the resulting solution is there, that these are resulting solution of the salt of the weak acid and the weak base, that becomes the acidic or the basic. वो concentration के ऊपर depend करता है, whether the concentration of the weak acid that we are getting, what concentration of say that is the weak acid as well as the weak base that we get over here. This is the weak acid and this is the weak base. BOH, this is the weak base, and the HA is the weak acid. जो हाइड्रोलिसिस के प्रोसेस के बाद में जो वीक एसिड और वीक बेस जो प्रोड्यूस होता है, उसका कंसंट्रेशन कितना होता है, उसके कंसंट्रेशन के ऊपर वो डिपेंड करता है, whether the resulting solution that becomes the acidic or whether it is a basic. Let us see if the dissociation constant, अगर हम लोग यहां पे dissociation constant की बात करें, the three conditions that we are getting for the salt of the weak acid and the weak base. The first condition is that if the value of the Ka is greater than the Kb, the dissociation constant for the acid, if it is greater than the dissociation constant of base, then the solution, resulting solution, that becomes the acidic solution. अगर यहाँ पे Ka is less than the Kb, अगर dissociation constant of the acid is less than the dissociation constant of Kb or the base, then the solution that becomes the basic when it is less. And when the value of the Ka is exactly equal to the Kb, then we say that the resulting solution that becomes the neutral solution. Now we are taking here that is the first condition. अगर मैं first condition की अगर बात करूं तो यहाँ पे देखिए, if I take here that is the Ka is greater than the Kb, ये condition अगर होती है तो ये solution होगा acidic का solution. Dissociation of the constant, the dissociation constant for the acid, if it is greater than the dissociation constant for the base, then these are solution that becomes the acidic. चलो हम लोग यहाँ पे करके देखें. We'll see that is the one example is there, that is the NH4F. This is the one salt where this is the salt of the weak acid and the weak base. Weak acid कौन सा होता है यहाँ पे? Weak acid is the Ha and the weak base is the ammonium hydroxide. So that this is the weak acid and this is the weak base. When these are weak acid that reacts with the weak base, see that is the when this is a weak acid that reacts with the weak base, as it is a HF, hydrogen fluoride, where this hydrogen fluoride is a weak acid and say that is the ammonium hydroxide is a weak base, then see that this formation is there. So this is the formation of the NH4F. This is the combination of the HF plus NH4OH. Where the HF is a weak acid, hydrogen fluoride is a weak acid and the ammonium hydroxide is a weak base. अब इसका hydrolysis हम लोग करेंगे. See, when we take here that is the hydrolysis of this NH4 positive plus F negative, as it is a salt, it gets completely dissociated. When it undergoes, say that is the hydrolysis, when it undergoes the hydrolysis, then see that what we are getting, the formation of NH4OH plus HF, ये आपको मिलता है. So this is what the one reaction that we are getting. अगर ये reaction अगर होती है, so see in this case, यहाँ पे आपको दोनों एक weak acid और weak base तो मिलता है. But see, as far as the concentration is concerned, अगर हम लोग यहाँ पे अगर बात अगर करें, तो that see that the HF is a slightly stronger than the base NH4OH. Where see that these are hydrogen fluoride, it is a stronger than these NH4OH. Hydrogen fluoride का concentration ज्यादा है, it is stronger than the NH4OH. Then see that whatever the formation that we are getting over here, देखिए यहाँ पे क्या होगा, NH4 positive plus say that is the twice H2O, that gives the formation of the twice, that is the formation of the NH4OH plus H3O positive. अगर ये फॉर्मेशन की अगर बात होती है तो देखो F negative plus H2O, that gives the formation of HF plus OH negative. So that see that these are the hydrolysis product, either say that is the both cation or anion. क्यों तो यहाँ पे जब हाइड्रोलिसिस होता है तो कंसेप्ट क्या होता है, both the ions, cations as well as the anions, that undergoes the hydrolysis, and therefore we have been taken here ammonium ion that undergoes the hydrolysis and the fluoride ion that also undergoes the hydrolysis. मैंने यहाँ पे दोनों के hydrolysis की बात की, where we are getting the formation that is the NH4OH here, and see here we are getting the formation like this. अब अगर ये होता है, अगर ये होता है तो हम लोग बोलेंगे कि that see that whatever the formation of these that indicates as the concentration that will be greater over here, जैसे यहाँ पे concentration water H3O का ज्यादा होता है, that whatever the resulting solution is there, that these are resulting solution that must be a acidic solution. यानी यहां पे अगर हम लोग देखें कि that say यहां पे अगर हम लोग देखते हैं तो यहां पे फॉर्मेशन जो होगा, फॉर्मेशन यहां पे एक्सेस ऑफ द हाइड्रोनियम आयन का फॉर्मेशन होने के कारण ये जो रिजल्टिंग सॉल्यूशन होगा, दैट दीज आर रिजल्टिंग सॉल्यूशन दैट मस्ट बी अ सो दैट इज द एसिडिक सॉल्यूशन. सो दिस इज द वेरी सिंपल कंसेप्ट कि यहां पे अब अगर एसिडिक अगर होगा तो देन वी मस्ट सेस that the Ka is greater than the Kb, that the dissociation constant for the acid is greater than the dissociation constant of the base, and therefore this is a resulting solution that must be a acidic solution. Correct? समझ में आ रही है? While say that is on the contrary that we are taking here, that is the second one. Second condition कौन सी है? That the Ka is less than Kb. अगर ऐसी कंडीशन अगर होती है तो ये सॉल्यूशन जो रिजल्टिंग सॉल्यूशन होगा, वो रिजल्टिंग सॉल्यूशन कैसे होगा? दैट बिकम द बेसिक. चलो हम लोग यहां पे एक एग्जांपल की बात करेंगे. सी दैट इज द अमोनियम साइनाइड. दिस इज द वन सॉल्ट. अमोनियम साइनाइड इज द वन सॉल्ट वेयर दिस gives the formation, जो भी formation resulting solution होगा, that these are resulting solution that must be a basic solution. Where say as per this condition Ka is less than the Kb, that resulting solution we get that is the basic. चलो इसका हाइड्रोलिसिस करके देखते हैं. अगर ये हाइड्रोलिसिस अगर होता है तो NH4 पॉजिटिव प्लस Cn नेगेटिव प्लस H2O, ये हो गया सॉल्ट. उसका हाइड्रोलिसिस that will produces here, that is the formation जो होगा, that these are formation that will get the HCN plus that is the ammonium hydroxide. So where we are getting here, that is the formation HCl or ammonium hydroxide. Both of these are the weak acids as well as the weak base. देखिए यहाँ पे clear. But the condition is that dissociation constant of the acid is less than the constant dissociation constant for the base. इसका मतलब ही होगा कि ये जो अमोनियम हाइड्रोक्साइड का जो होगा कॉन्सेंट्रेशन कैसे होगा? ज्यादा होगा. When the concentration of the ammonium hydroxide or the that becomes ammonium hydroxide, that becomes the stronger than the HCN. When it becomes the stronger than the HCN, then we says that whatever the coming solution or the resulting solution is there, that these are resulting solution that must be a basic. चलो हम लोग यहाँ पे डिसोसिएशन करके देखते हैं कैसे होगा. So see that the formation, अगर यहाँ पे कैटाइन की अगर बात अगर करें तो NH4 पॉजिटिव that undergoes the hydrolysis which produces here, that is the NH4OH plus हाइड्रोजन आयन और द हाइड्रोनियम आयन. यानी यहां पे अगर फॉर्मेशंस की बात अगर होगी तो दैट सी वी आर गेटिंग द फॉर्मेशन ऑफ द अमोनियम हाइड्रोक्साइड along with this formation of the hydrogen ion. Both anions as well as the cations. Now we are talking about the anions. Cyanide ion that undergoes the hydrolysis. Both cations as well as the anions that undergoes the hydrolysis, and therefore what we get here, that is the HCN plus along with this we get here, that is the OH negative. Now when these are salt that dissolve inside the water, the concentration of the hydroxide ion that is always greater. अगर हम लोग यहाँ पे अगर देखें तो concentration of the hydroxide ion that will be the greater over here. As it is the concentration of these hydroxide ion is greater, therefore we says that resulting solution that must be a basic solution. करेक्ट? क्यों? तो यहाँ पे हाइड्रोक्साइड आयन प्रोड्यूस ज्यादा होते हैं करके जो रिजल्टिंग सॉल्यूशन होगा, दैट रिजल्टिंग सॉल्यूशन दैट मस्ट बी अ बेस. सो इट इज द बेसिक इन नेचर. यहाँ पे अगर हम लोग देखें तो पहला जो यहाँ पे होता है, जहां पे हाइड्रोजन आयन और द हाइड्रोनियम आयन का कॉन्सेंट्रेशन ज्यादा होता है करके वो एसिडिक होता है. दूसरे इसमें हमने देखा कि जहां पे हाइड्रोक्साइड आयन का कॉन्सेंट्रेशन ज्यादा होता है करके वो बेसिक होगा. पहली कंडीशन कौन से फॉलो करता है? Ka is greater than the Kb, where the dissociation constant for the acid that will be greater than the dissociation constant of base. Here the another condition that we have been taken, where the value of the Ka is less than the value of the Kb, therefore it is a basic. Correct? अब तीसरे ऑप्शंस की अगर बात अगर करें, where we take here, that is the another one, that where the value of the Ka is exactly equal to the Kb. अगर वैल्यू अगर ये होती है Ka की वैल्यू is exactly equal to the Kb, then see that resulting solution that becomes the neutral solution, ऐसा हमारा मानना है. So it is a neutral. It is a neutral solution. अगर वो न्यूट्रल सॉल्यूशन होता है तो उसका भी एग्जांपल हम लोग ले. See if I take here that is the example for this. This is the very simple example where the CH3COO negative plus NH4 positive and a salt कौन सा है? Ammonium acetate. The salt is the ammonium acetate, where these are ammonium acetate salt that is to be formed by the combination of the ammonium hydroxide and the acetic acid, where the ammonium hydroxide is a weak base and the acetic acid is a weak acid. So by the combination of the weak acid as well as the weak base, we get here that the salt, as it is a salt, it gets 100% dissociated into the ions that we are getting CH3CO negative plus NH4 positive. It undergoes the hydrolysis. That will produces over here CH3COOH plus NH4OH. बराबर, ये रिएक्शन समझ में आ रही है. सो दैट दिस इज व्हाट द फॉर्मेशन. अब यहां पे अगर हम लोग देखें कि ये एनायन और ये कैटायन, again we come on the definition of the hydrolysis, either cation or anion or both. So in this case, again say that is the CH3COO negative that undergoes the hydrolysis, which produces, say that is the CH3COOH plus OH negative. Okay, so that we are getting the hydroxide ion OH negative. और दूसरा अगर अमोनिया की अमोनियम आयन की अगर बात करें, so that is the NH4 positive plus H2O that also undergoes the hydrolysis, which has a tendency to produces the ammonium hydroxide along with say that is the H positive ion. So here whatever the formations that we get, relative strength of the acids as well as the base that is formed over here, that is exactly equal or that is the same. The strength of the acids as well as the bases that is formed, that is same. अगर यहाँ पे रिलेटिव स्ट्रेंथ एसिड की और बेस की अगर सेम होती है तो करके हम लोग मानते हैं कि दैट द वैल्यू ऑफ द Ka इज एग्जैक्टली इक्वल टू द वैल्यू ऑफ द Kb, and as these values are equal, therefore that these are resulting solution that becomes the neutral. यानी अगर हाइड्रोलिसिस ऑफ सॉल्ट ऑफ वीक एसिड और वीक बेस की अगर बात करें तो मैंने पहले ही बोला है, either cation or the anion or both cations as well as the anions that undergoes the hydrolysis that will produces here that is the weak acids as well as the weak bases, but on the concentration of a weak acid as well as the weak bases that we can decide where the resulting solution that become the acidic, basic or the neutral. तो concept वही हो गया कि Ka is greater than the Kb, then the solution is acidic. When the Ka is less than the Kb, then the solution is basic, and when the value of the Ka and the Kb is exactly equal, then this is a solution that becomes the neutral. Clear? समझ में आ रहा है ये? So this is the complete concept of the hydrolysis of the different 4 different types of the salt. Clear? समझ में आ रहा है ये? मुझे लगता है कि ये समझना, बिकॉज से एग्जामिनेशन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू दैट दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. यहाँ पे आप लोगों को हर टॉपिक पे हर सॉल्ट पे आपको क्वेश्चंस मिलेंगे. ओके, थैंक यू.